From the advertising media capital of the world, New Milford, Connecticut, wherever that is. This is Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, a bi-weekly-ish podcast about all things automotive marketing. Now, here's your host, Matt Wilson.
Welcome to another episode of Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, presented by Silverback Advertising. Live online at silverbackadvertising.com. Have you seen the new Dealer Marketing Magazine website? Remember when it was a magazine, by the way? I used to get it. The controller who got the mail, not the controller, the HR lady who got the mail at my dealership would put it on my desk and I would thumb through it. And now it's a website and they have a brand new website out. Check it out. It's a dealermarketing.com. Great folks over there. Lots of great content. And the website is all redesigned. And I'm a huge fan of it because thanks to a partnership with Dealer Marketing Magazine, we get to interview and chat with some members of their expert panel on a regular basis. And the member of the expert panel today that we're going to chat with is a repeat guest here on Mostly Automotive Marketing. Let's bring him in now. It's Ed Steenman. He's the Dealer Marketing Magazine expert panel member and owner at Steenman Associates. Hi, Ed. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Still recording from the basement.
I know. I like your setup. I remember the setup. You got the good mic and the bar back there, which I was a huge fan of.
Well, those are two things any advertising professional needs. It's a good megaphone and a bar, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Well, welcome back and welcome. I'm glad to see you on the expert panel. How long have you been on the expert panel of Dealer Marketing Magazine and how's it going so far?
Oh my gosh. I started writing for Dealer Marketing Magazine more years than I can count, but it's at least 10 years.
Wow.
And was a contributing writer and a paid writer at some point, and then have just been honored to continue to work with Laura and her team as it's sort of been the rebirth of Dealer Marketing Magazine, which, as you said, really is a sort of a misnomer because it's really just Dealer Marketing Magazine website.
Yeah, right. But that's a really long URL, though. So
exactly. It's been fabulous to be part of the expert panel. We've had some good folks on there, and so obviously, like you said, it no longer arrives in the mail, but it arrives over the magic of the interwebs, and hopefully, folks can listen in their car to this podcast or whatever it is they're going to do. Yeah,
new website they have is easy to navigate. Lots of great information. I do like some of the cartoon drawings or characters that some of the expert panel members have. Look pretty cool too. Kind of differentiates there. So looking good. And that's how Ed and I are hooked up again here for his second visit to the podcast. And today we're going to chat about something that I don't really think we've really gotten too far into, and we try to kind of not get into the weeds here, but I think this is a good discussion to have, and probably for some dealers listening who may not be aware of the fact that there is a Google Analytics 4 out there or available. And I think that the first part of the discussion is why. So before we get into what's different or what you can do with it or why you should be working with it, why is there a new version of Google Analytics?
Sure. And so even backing up a little further, whether as a dealer you are directly looking at Google Analytics or whether you are looking at dashboard reporting provided by your vendor, lots of vendors have their own dashboards they want you to look at. If you get to the heart of most of those dashboards, you're going to find that they're driven by Google Analytics.
Right.
And Google Analytics is a free program offered from Google to everyone. And it is really the industry standard, or viewed as the industry standard for analytics, in that it can't be modified by an individual vendor or really can't be tampered with in any way. So it's pretty much known as the gold standard for the reporting. So whether you as a dealer look at Google Analytics, which I always encourage you to do, or whether you're looking through a vendor platform, you're probably digesting the same data being presented in relatively the same way. So I think that's the starting point of, why should I care? Why is this important? Obviously, you can't manage what you can't measure.
Right.
And the evolution that has happened here, the last version of Google Analytics was what we call UA, Universal Analytics. And it, like all of the Google Analytics before, has been a web-based property. Google, about a year or so ago, came out with a beta called App Plus Web. And what they were trying to do is to understand that people are using different devices. So, for example, you might respond to a prompt or an ad or some sort of stimulus by going to a dealer's website, but then you might jump over to if a dealer has an app to schedule service, you might schedule service on that app, and more generally, of course, with e-commerce. So you have these different methods, whether it be a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, an app. People are responding in all different ways. Right. And it got to the point where Google really wasn't doing an effective job tracking all of those different ways that users interacted. And so this was really a desire on Google's part to try to close that gap. And the Web Plus app product has now become what they call Google Analytics 4. So the issue, one of the issues that we need to talk about first, I guess, is the whole app thing. You may be a dealer that doesn't have an app. I don't know. You may have some feedback, Matt, on how many dealers. Back in the day, everybody wanted QR codes and everybody wanted an app. So right. You may not be a dealer that actually has their own app. You may be using an app for scheduling service. Yep. And so you may say, well, okay, I don't have an app, I don't care. But what's happened is Google is effectively introducing a new language. And the metrics and the reporting that you see, I don't know if it's fair to say it's going from Chinese to Russian, or it's going from English to Italian. You're going to, as the new Google Analytics 4 moves forward, and at some point they stop supporting Universal Analytics, the data that you see from Google Analytics 4 tracking the things that you're used to seeing looks very, very different. So whether or not you're a dealer that has an app or not, you need to be familiar with this and understand that what you're going to see through your vendor dashboard or what you're going to see presented to you, it's going to be hard to compare it to what you've seen before. Right.
Yeah. Which is always good, which is always great for our industry, is having to look at it a different way. It's hard to adapt sometimes for us. And I feel like, just going back to what you were saying about the app, I feel like, 7, 8, 10 years ago, everybody was like, okay, I have to have an app, right? So people can schedule service and we can send push notifications and yada, yada. And I feel like now what happens is at least from, like, if I take a look at like 70 dealers that I know, I don't think many of them have an app. I think most of them, they adjust their mobile site in such a way that, the things that people do frequently on mobile, schedule a service appointment, probably being the first one, I would guess, is easily accessible on the mobile app. And we're all using the same 5 programs to schedule service anyway, usually something the manufacturer is suggesting that we use. Will there be an effect on, some of the basic elements that dealers look at, right or wrong, visits, users, bounce rate, stuff that, maybe is not important to look at, but, we think is, what's the major effect on that level?
Right. So in the past, things have been very session based. Right. So we would measure things like visitors arriving to your website, time on site, pages viewed, bounce rate. Those were very session-driven events. Right. What you see now is that is basically gone away, and we now have event-based view. So you'll be able to look at not how many people visit and how long they stay. You'll be able to look at how many people visit and what they do while they're on your site. So did they schedule a service appointment? Did they download a form? Did they convert in some fashion? Did they, order something online? It's very much an event-based. And the platform looks, it sort of looks the same, but there's an awful lot of different things. There's really kind of three things. One is how users are tracked, which is sessions versus events. The reporting, you probably know from the time that you've spent in Google Analytics that you go to, users, and then you look at source, and then you look at medium, and you look at, what drove them to, was it the the internet ad, what was it that brought them there? That's become a lot easier to drill down, and they've really moved that acquisition piece to its own section, and you can now drill down that acquisition piece a lot further than you used to be able to. You used to have to do tricky stuff like, okay, I want to see how many, how's my organic working? But okay, now I have to add this secondary dimension of what city are they in? And
right.
You had to get kind of tricky to get that stuff.
Yeah.
It's become a lot more relevant to drill down, and there's a lot more things that you can see. And then really the third thing is the setup. There used to be you'd go into Google Analytics and you'd see an account, and then you would see a property, and then you would see a view. You would see those three things. I always got confused between those three things.
Yeah, me too, still.
Like, why do I need three things to look at a website, right?
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to add an ad?
Yes.
Okay, they've now eliminated that, and it's basically two things. It's basically the the account view, and basically the property view, but there's no more individual view, because you can add streams. So for example, your website could be one stream that you want to monitor, but an app could be a second stream that you want to monitor.
Oh, interesting.
So they've essentially blended those together, into a more seamless model. Now there's some tricky stuff that you can do, and I don't want to get too deep, as you said, too deep into the weeds, but there's some pretty interesting stuff, the way that they're accumulating data. For example, it used to just be that we would always see that property view where you would see how many people visited, and then you'd see how many unique visitors. And you're like, okay, my website got 400 visits, but 300 unique visits. Oh, that means that 100 people, visited more than once. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, what did they do, and who converted, right, and what happened. The new GA4 is much more journey based. So if, Matt, you, for example, see a TV ad, or some stimulus causes you to go to the website, and then you decide to leave and go have a cup of coffee, and then you decide to pick up your cell phone and revisit that website, and then, now you're going to go schedule an appointment through an app, it will actually track you as a unique IP address through your journey. And so it used to just show you number of people on your website right now. Yep. Now you actually see how many people have visited in the last 30 minutes. Uh-oh. So they've converted it from a static view to more of a journey, or an active view is what I like to call it.
In that example, though, am I still 3 visitors? Right? I go from my computer, and then I go, or am I 1 visitor?
No, you're 1 visitor.
That's excellent.
And there's some really, really cool stuff. And we're all still learning this. This is a relatively new rollout. They started back last year with the pieces. So it's one of those things. Let me jump back before I do that, which is to kind of let you know, how can you access the new Google Analytics 4? Maybe we need to talk about that, because Google's done some things to allow you basically to continue to receive your current Universal Analytics data, but to set up a second stream of reporting that then gives you the Google Analytics 4 data.
Okay.
So it's kind of like training wheels. So basically, okay, let's start receiving the new data. Let's continue to receive the old data. And then as we get familiar with the program, then we'll be in a position to migrate forward into just GA4. So they've tried to make it relatively easy.
Right.
In some cases, you need your programmer to go on your website. In some cases, if you have certain types of pixels on your website, you can literally just click an upgrade, and you'll automatically start getting the new reporting in addition to the old reporting. So that's something kind of slick, just
Yeah.
dealers may feel like, well, wait a minute, this is a new thing, and am I really ready to try this out?
Yeah. And it gives us all too the ability to, because like whenever somebody switches a new view, or like Microsoft Outlook will be like, check out the new Outlook, and you go and check it out and you're like, oh, click back to the old view. You get that moment of like anxiety.
Right.
So it's good to have both running parallel. Should everybody be looking at GA4 right now? And at what point do you believe the universal analytics is going to go away and it's going to be all GA4?
So the answer to the second question is, I have no idea.
Okay.
Google will do what Google is going to do.
Yeah.
I think that everyone should start to integrate GA4. Google has made it clear that this is in fact the future. This is where they're going to go. There are lots of cool new features on GA4, and I think that as time goes by, there will, there'll be newer and better and cooler stuff. So you're really smart, since this is nothing but a little bit of time for you to start getting the new reporting. Why wouldn't you start getting it now and start experimenting with it?
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff indeed. I believe so for you, are you looking at all your things through GA4 right now and trying to, because if it almost feels like, let me see if I can set it up and if I can just use this without having to look back at the air quotes old way of doing it, and be prepared for when Google arbitrarily says, good luck to you all, and gets rid of it. Is there really any reason to wait? I guess not.
No, there really isn't. And it's relatively simple. Google does have a demo account that is the Google Merchandise Store, and anyone with a Gmail address, which is everyone, can go, and you could take your personal Gmail address and you can sign up and start looking at the Google Merchandise Store, which is actually does sell Google merchandise, Google gear. If you want to buy a Google t-shirt, I guess that's your place to go. But what it would allow you to do is, if you want to sit there and kind of scroll through Google Analytics and Universal Analytics and GA4 and sort of test drive it to get a little familiar with it. And I understand that most dealers are not going to be the ones that are actually going to be driving this thing, but going in and familiarizing yourself a little bit with it, really the goal, I think the key goal for dealers is understand that as we move forward, that your data is going to be migrating to this new platform, and your reporting is going to be coming from this new platform. And so having at least a basic level understanding of what's here, I think, so that you can hold your web teams accountable and you can hold your vendors accountable and understand what they're showing you. Learn enough to be dangerous, right? I mean, that's kind of the goal. So if you want to, go poke around at night, or you want to go poke around and just go to the Google Merchandise Store, you can type in Google Analytics. I can give you a link that you could post here, or it's fairly easy to find, and then go in and just kind of familiarize yourself a little bit with it. Spend an hour kind of understanding it. I think then you'll come away with a good base for what you're going to see and not be surprised. And also, ask your vendors, are you guys integrating the new Google into your reporting? If there's a dashboard from your web vendor, are they, how are they modifying their dashboard? I mean, obviously, ask questions and see where it's going. There's some really cool stuff that GA4 can do. If we have a few minutes, I can talk to you about a couple of my favorite things.
Let's do it.
So one of the things that they're doing now is they're incorporating machine learning into analytics, and there is actually a predictive tab. So, for example, you can see likely purchasers within the next 7 days. And what they've been able to do is they're tracking anonymously, of course, the activities that users take, and they can see who enters your website and what actions they take to convert. And then they can look at other people that are beginning to take those same actions and predict what it is that they're going to do. So, for example, if people always go through a similar process to order a car online, or if people go through a similar process to schedule a service, obviously Google has set this up for an e-commerce store, right? You're going to go in, you're going to shop for the airline ticket, and that you're going to then you're going to configure your seats, and then at some point you're going to confirm, and then at some point you're going to click buy, right? So they're tracking that whole journey, so they can basically say, okay, this person got to 3/4 of the way through the transaction, and then for whatever reason stopped. They weren't ready to click buy. They weren't ready to execute. But we can tell you who those people are through predictive machine learning that's now built into this thing. And now you can go in and do a marketing campaign specifically to those people. So that's the equivalent of me saying, hey, Matt, would you like to know people that are actively in the market for a car within the next 7 days, as opposed to everybody in the world who's visiting your website? And what would that be worth to you as a dealer owner to know that?
Yeah, right.
So that's something that Google Analytics is working through, or GA4 is working through, that will then integrate back into your AdWords account. So you could basically set up an account or an AdWords campaign that is basically, okay, not quite ready to buy. Let us offer you this thing so that you'll come over the edge and make the decision. So starting to play with that. I also work with a number of shows and events where it's like, okay, why didn't you buy a ticket, right? So, where were you in the journey, and what do we got to do to sell you that ticket or get you to take that next step? So that's, probably one of the cooler things that you can see. You get a lot more journey reporting. You can see where I know in the past that Universal Analytics had it, but it was always this chart with all these weird kind of loopy lines, and you're like, okay, 1,000 people came and 300 dropped off, and 700 and now 400. It was just, I never found it to be super easy to understand and to really understand what was going on. This is much more of a journey tracking, to where you can see where in your website people are dropping off. Maybe people are, going to a particular parts page, or they're going to a particular thing on the site, and then they're just stopping. And you're like, well, why are they stopping? What, do we need a button there? Do we need, what's going on? What's happening, so that we can try to figure out how to keep people moving through the site, and to whatever conclusion, schedule an appointment or schedule a test drive, or whatever it is that we're trying to do. So that's some of the things that I think, you asked for kind of reasons why to make the switch. And I think over time, Google is going to be going more and more in the direction of that machine learning.
Yeah. And I think that back to the beginning too, the event, measuring events, measuring actions will be great for dealers through the Google Analytics. But one thing that I'm wondering is, because our websites and our, e-commerce and end-to-end and all that kind of stuff is so far behind, I feel like the rest of the world, are there limitations to, I'll use as an example, like a liquor store that sells online. Obviously, it's way easy to measure conversions and add to carts and, dollars spent and all that kind of stuff. But with dealers, it's kind of a mishmash way that we have that, put together on our websites. Is there, are we limiting ourselves in terms of the things that Google Analytics can track, that we just don't have our act together enough on our websites to take advantage of it?
Well, I am, I'm not a website provider. I like you, I'm a marketing company, and a lot of the dealer websites, as you know, come from large national providers,
right?
And many of them are templated models. I think that not to jump too hard into that, but I think that it's back to it's easy to make it hard. It's hard to make it easy. I think that sometimes we're guilty of putting too many shiny bells and whistles and buttons on our website, and allowing people too many ways to get to places, and
yes,
being able to simplify and streamline that process visiting our website. I know some dealers that have, how many drop downs across the top of their website and how many, things stacked underneath, everything gets its own drop down and everything gets its own unique place. And after a while, there's like 47 places I can go on this dealer's website. And I think that where working with your web team and working with Google Analytics 4, it's like, okay, can we just remove stuff? Can we take stuff off that really is cluttering up our site, but probably isn't really doing a lot to help us?
Yeah.
And so I think that might be, speaking somewhat out of my area of expertise, I think that might be an area that the website providers, could and should look at. Let's make visiting an automotive dealership website as simple and streamlined as possible. Let's make it easy for you to find what you're looking for. And let's not throw up, too many shiny objects along the way that are going to mess you up.
All good stuff. Ed Steenman, Dealer Marketing Magazine expert, panel member, and owner at Steenman Associates here on Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. I appreciate your second appearance. As good, if not better than the first. Although I don't really remember the first. I don't remember that one because it was a long time ago. But
well, I think you said you've done over 100 podcasts since then. So congratulations.
I think I have.
Maybe I get to be your 100th podcast. That would be kind of fun.
Or
maybe not.
I feel like if I knew that, I could have prepared some like streamers and party sound effects and everything. And maybe I'll go back and count one day and see where we're at.
Really, the last thing that I want to throw out is I'm always a believer, and you and I are both in the advertising business. And, sure, we love to have people spend money and we love to have people, buy ads from us. Because it, feeds our respective families. But I'm always a fan of people getting as much as they can from Google, for free or organically through having a well-optimized website, through being able to measure things like their traffic and organic traffic, and having just the best understanding of what people can do. Right now with dealers, everybody's pressed for budgets. And this is a free program that with very little support, you can get going and you can at least start to understand it and then grow and make it better and learn from there. And so I just think that it's a huge benefit to dealers who are smart enough to jump on it.
Ed, thanks very much. We appreciate your time.
All right. Talk to you next time.
You got it. Healthy Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, presented by Silverback Advertising, online at silverbackadvertising.com. Thanks for listening.
Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson is brought to you by... Wait, this guy has sponsors? Oh, never mind. This sheet of paper's blank. No sponsors. That makes more sense. For updates, info, future episodes, and more, follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and connect on Frackle. You guys made that last one up. That's not even a thing, Frackle. Come on.